Personne ne peut le nier et nous vous ferons les preuves dans les jours suivants. Nous vous montrerons des preuves physiques. Vous allez comprendre de quoi nous parlons.
Brothers and sisters of Africa, sons and daughters of the diaspora, and freedom-loving people across the globe, tonight we gather at the crossroads of history, at a moment so electrifying that the very balance of global power trembles. Tonight, the name of Burkina Faso does not echo merely as a nation on the map of West Africa. No, tonight, that name thunders across continents, woven into the very threads of a revolution. For what has happened in Dhaka, Bangladesh, is not just a trade deal. It is not just a contract, nor is it simply a matter of economics. No, my people, it is a declaration of independence carved in steel, stitched in resilience, and draped in the pride of a continent rising from centuries of shadows. I speak of nothing less than the historic moment when President Captain Ibrahim Traore signed a $100 billion textile deal with Bangladesh, a deal that has already been described by economists as one of the most seismic global shifts in industrial trade since the Second World War. Imagine this, a landlocked African nation, long mocked by Western powers, long underestimated, and left for dead by neo-colonial puppeteers, now standing tall and commanding an industrial partnership that dwarfs the petty aid packages, the insulting development loans, and the backhanded charity of the West. This is not simply about textiles. It is about rewriting the rules of engagement in the 21st century. It is about shattering the illusions that Africa must always be a supplier of raw cotton while the West and its allies dictate who spins, who sews, and who profits. For centuries, Africa's cotton fed the mills of Manchester, Lyon, New York, and beyond. Yet our people remained impoverished, exploited, and dependent. But tonight, Captain Ibrahim Traore and the indomitable spirit of Burkina Faso have declared, no more. Can you hear it, people? Can you feel the tremor in the ground beneath you? The old empire is shaking. The Western capitals, from Washington to Paris, are restless. Their newspapers will not admit it, but behind closed doors they panic. Because for the first time in modern history, an African leader has looked not west but east, has looked to Bangladesh, a nation itself once bruised by colonialism, a nation that has risen from the ashes of struggle, and together they have struck a deal so massive, so daring that it threatens to tear apart the chains of dependency forged over centuries. This deal is more than money. It is more than the billions. It is the story of two peoples united by shared scars and shared dreams, two nations who understand what it means to be exploited by empires. Two nations who now understand that the future will not be gifted by the West. It must be claimed boldly. Picture it. Factories rising in Ouagadougou, Bobo Dioulasso, Kédougou, tens of thousands of jobs created for young Africans, for mothers and fathers, for graduates long left idle. Picture the looms turning, the sewing machines humming, the fabrics rolling off in brilliant colors, not to serve Europe, not to serve America, but to clothe the world under African management, African contracts, African ownership. And picture, too, the young Burkinabé who once thought migration was the only option, now standing proudly at home, working in industries that pay not crumbs, but wages worthy of their skill and sweat. But make no mistake, this was not welcomed by everyone. Even before the ink dried, emissaries from Washington called Dhaka. Paris whispered threats. London raised its voice. They demanded explanations. They tried to dissuade. They tried to bribe. They tried to threaten. But Bangladesh stood firm. And why? Because Bangladesh remembers its own scars, its own journey from famine to factory powerhouse. Because Bangladesh recognizes in Traore the same fire that once fueled its liberation. And together, Dhaka and Ouagadougou have sent a clear message. The age of colonial dictate is over. Now, brothers and sisters, I ask you to consider the symbolism. A $100 billion textile deal, not signed in New York, not in London, not in Paris, but in Bangladesh, a nation that once was dismissed as too poor, too weak. This is not coincidence. This is poetry. This is justice. This is the rhythm of history coming full circle, reminding us that the global South will only rise when it binds itself together, not in servitude to the West, but in solidarity with one another. And as the ink dried on that deal, I tell you, the earth shifted. The empire trembled. Africa's children, from Dakar to Dar es Salaam, from Lusaka to Lagos, lifted their heads a little higher. Because for the first time, they could point to a Burkinabé leader, a young soldier in fatigues, and say, "He has done it. He has proven what they told us was impossible, that Africa can negotiate from a place of strength, not weakness. That Africa can lead, not follow. That Africa can build, not beg." Tonight is not just about a deal. Tonight is about a warning. To the West, the game has changed. To Africa, the dream has awakened. And to Captain Ibrahim Traore, history has called your name, and you have answered with thunder. So stay with me tonight, brothers and sisters. Because what I am about to unfold for you is not simply an agreement between two nations. It is the blueprint for the end of dependency, the spark of a new dawn, and the beginning of a revolution in trade, dignity, and destiny. Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Africa, and indeed people of the world, today we gather to witness a moment that has already begun to reshape the economic and political landscape of our time. This is not merely news. This is history unfolding before our very eyes. President Captain Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso, a man who has consistently defied the odds, has landed a deal so monumental, so astonishing, that it reverberates far beyond the borders of his nation. A $100 billion textile agreement, signed with Bangladesh, has sent shockwaves through the global economy and stands as one of the greatest symbols of Pan-African and South-South cooperation we have ever witnessed. $100 billion. Pause for a moment and let that sink in. Not in gold, not in oil, not in arms, but in textiles, in the fabric of our everyday lives, in the threads that clothe our children, in the materials that build industries, in the very essence of work, trade, and dignity. Burkina Faso, once underestimated and marginalized, has now written a new chapter in the history of trade partnerships. And this partnership is not with the West, not with those who for centuries extracted and exploited Africa, but with Bangladesh, a fellow nation from the global South, a people who know the taste of struggle, who know the battles against poverty and exploitation, who have risen from their own scars of colonization to build one of the world's most formidable textile industries. This deal is not accidental. It is not the product of charity, nor is it a trick played by the forces of neocolonialism. No, it is a carefully crafted vision, the fruit of foresight, of leadership, of a refusal to submit to the dictates of the West. It is a testament to what happens when nations of the global South look inward to each other and recognize that their strength does not lie in begging for aid, but in building partnerships rooted in equality, respect, and mutual benefit. For decades, Africa has been told that its destiny must remain shackled to the generosity of the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the former colonial masters who return, time and again, with loans, conditionalities, and chains disguised as assistance. But Captain Ibrahim Traore has turned the table. He has said to the world, "We are not beggars. We are not perpetual recipients of aid. We are builders, traders, partners, and sovereigns." And today, his words carry the weight of $100 billion worth of fabrics, machinery, supply chains, and jobs that will spread across Africa and Asia alike. Think of what this means for Burkina Faso. This is not a nation with vast oil reserves or massive coastal ports. This is a landlocked country in the heart of Africa. Yet, through sheer determination, it has positioned itself at the center of a textile revolution that could transform not only its own economy, but also that of the entire African continent. Cotton has long been grown in Burkina Faso. Our farmers have worked the land with their bare hands, producing some of the finest raw cotton in the world. Yet for decades, this cotton was exported raw, at low prices, to be processed abroad, in Europe, in Asia, in America, and then sold back to us as finished products at 10 times the value. But this cycle of exploitation is now being broken. With this deal, Burkina Faso's cotton will no longer be merely raw material for the profits of others. It will be woven, spun, dyed, and sewn into products in collaboration with Bangladesh's world-class textile expertise. Factories will rise in Ouagadougou, in Bobo Dioulasso, and across the nation. Training centers will flourish, where young men and women will learn advanced textile technologies. Jobs will be created in the tens of thousands, and incomes will rise in the millions. For the first time, our farmers will see their cotton transformed not into a symbol of exploitation, but into a symbol of empowerment. And for Bangladesh, This partnership is equally revolutionary. Bangladesh has for decades been the global hub of textile production, but it has faced its own challenges: rising wages, pressure from Western companies, and the constant struggle to secure raw materials at stable prices. With Burkina Faso, Bangladesh secures a long-term source of premium cotton while expanding its reach into African markets and building a bridge of solidarity that bypasses the Western chokehold on global trade. This is not Bangladesh exploiting Burkina Faso, nor Burkina Faso depending on Bangladesh. This is reciprocity. This is South-South cooperation in its purest form. Do you see the magnitude of this? This is a direct threat to the Western economic order. For centuries, Europe and America have controlled the cotton-to-textile pipeline. They controlled the plantations, the mills, the shipping routes, the brands, and the markets. They dictated prices, they manipulated supply chains, they hoarded profits. But today, Burkina Faso and Bangladesh have dared to say, "We will control our own destiny." And in doing so, they have struck a blow to the very heart of neo-colonial economics. Now, let us not be naive. This deal will not go unchallenged. The West will see in this partnership a danger to their profits, a challenge to their dominance, a spark of rebellion that may ignite across the entire global South. They will deploy their media to paint it as unrealistic, as dangerous, as reckless. They will whisper into the ears of traitors and opportunists within our lands, offering bribes, promises, and positions to derail it. They will attempt to sabotage through sanctions, through diplomatic pressure, through subtle sabotage of supply chains. They will not sit idly while a landlocked African nation dares to dictate the terms of its future. But here is where the genius of Traore shines through. He has prepared for this. He has not placed Burkina Faso's destiny in one basket, in one market, or in one vulnerable alliance. He has built connections with Russia, with China, with India, with Turkey, and now with Bangladesh. He has built alliances within Africa itself, with Mali, Niger, Guinea, and beyond. He has made Burkina Faso's destiny not the dream of a single man, but the collective dream of a people awake to their power. And so, even if the West seeks to strangle this deal, the will of the people will breathe life into it again and again, until it flourishes beyond their reach. Think of the image this projects to the youth of Africa. For too long, our young people have been told that the only way to succeed is to migrate, to flee their homeland in search of work in the West, where they are often humiliated, exploited, and treated as second-class citizens. But today, Ibrahim Traore has shown them that they need not flee to find dignity. Dignity can be built here, in Africa, with their own hands, their own creativity, their own soil, and their own leaders. The youth of Burkina Faso will not only have jobs, but will have pride. Pride in producing, pride in creating, pride in building an economy that the world respects. And let us remember, this is not just about Burkina Faso. This is about Mali, Niger, Senegal, Chad, Ghana, Nigeria, and all of Africa. This deal is proof that if we stand together, if we think strategically, if we refuse to bow to external dictates, we can rewrite the rules of global trade. Today it is textiles. Tomorrow it will be steel. The next day, it will be technology. The next, energy. Piece by piece, brick by brick, Africa can and will free itself from economic dependency and rise to claim its rightful place on the world stage. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, let us not mistake this for mere economics. This is not simply a contract signed between two nations. This is a declaration of independence, a manifesto of sovereignty, a torch held high in the night of exploitation to guide us all toward the dawn of self-determination. Ibrahim Traore has once again proven that leadership is not about bowing to the strong, but about standing tall with dignity, vision, and courage. And so, let the world know, Africa is no longer a playground for plunder. Burkina Faso is no longer a land to be pitted or patronized. We are builders of empires, weavers of futures, partners in global progress. With this $100 billion textile deal, signed with the people of Bangladesh, Captain Ibrahim Traore has not just transformed his nation's economy, he has transformed the destiny of Africa. This is the beginning of something far greater than any of us can yet imagine. This is the sound of chains breaking. This is the vision of Sankara carried forward. This is the roar of a new Africa. And it has only just begun. Brothers and sisters, As we come to the close of this historic broadcast, I want you to pause and breathe in the weight of what has just unfolded before our eyes. What we are witnessing is not merely a headline. It is the rebirth of a dream, the awakening of a continent, the reclaiming of dignity long denied. For centuries, Africa was told she was too weak, too divided, too dependent to chart her own course. Tonight, Ibrahim Traore and the people of Burkina Faso have proven the world wrong. The $100 billion textile deal with Bangladesh is not simply about fabric or fashion. It is about weaving together the future of Africa. It is about reminding us that Africa is not condemned to remain a supplier of raw materials, not doomed to remain at the mercy of Western markets, not destined to live in the shadow of empires that fed on our labor. No, Africa is destined to rise, to stand tall, and to command respect, not through begging, but through boldness. And let us not mistake the symbolism. Bangladesh, a nation once dismissed, a nation scarred by colonial greed, stood shoulder to shoulder with Burkina Faso. This is the lesson of the new world. Our salvation will not come from Washington, from Paris, from London, or Brussels. It will come from ourselves, and from the alliances we forge with others who share our scars and our struggle. Can you see it, brothers and sisters? Can you hear it in the streets of Ouagadougou? Can you feel it in the hearts of young Africans from Ghana to Sudan, from Congo to Senegal? The thunder of hope, the pulse of pride, the unstoppable truth that we are no longer victims of history. We are authors of destiny. But remember, the road ahead will not be smooth. Already, whispers echo in Western capitals. Already, their think tanks scheme, their bankers calculate, their politicians plot. They will try to sabotage. They will try to destabilize. They will try to sow division. Because they know, if Burkina Faso can do this, then so can Mali. If Mali can do this, then so can Niger. If Niger can do this, then so can the Congo, Ethiopia, Ghana, and beyond. And if Africa unites in this spirit, the empire of exploitation collapses. So tonight, let this be more than celebration. Let this be a call to action. To every African leader, look to Ouagadougou. To every African entrepreneur, take courage. To every African youth, hold fast to your dreams. Because Traore has proven that the chains can be broken, that the deals of dignity can be signed, and that the pride of Africa can be restored. And to our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, know this: your homeland is rising. Your mother continent is shaking off her chains. She is no longer waiting to be saved. She is saving herself. And your role is vital: to amplify, to invest, to defend, and to stand shoulder to shoulder with the sons and daughters of the soil who are building this new dawn. Tonight, history has spoken, and it has spoken in a language clear and undeniable. Africa will not be silenced. Africa will not be bought. Africa will not be bent. Not by Trump, not by Paris, not by any empire. Africa will stand, and her standing begins with bold leaders like Ibrahim Traore. So I leave you with this. Remember this day, remember this deal, remember this moment when a small nation in West Africa looked at the giants of the world and said, "We will not bow, we will build." Remember it, carry it, and let it fuel the fire in you. For the struggle continues, but tonight, victory is ours. Africa is not waiting. Africa is not begging. Africa is rising, and nothing will stop her.